I will say is that, and we've talked about this, James, like the ability to hack electronic voting machines and how ridiculously easy it is. And this is not a conspiracy theory, like that's real.
I watched a child. I watched a child hack a voting machine with an iPad in under 2 minutes. Like watched it
Yeah.
in person. Like that shit happened. I was like,
And I think, and maybe people in the chat will know, but I'm pretty sure that New Hampshire votes on paper, but then it's put into an electronic machine that counts it, which is what they do in New York. I could be wrong on this, so don't, hold me on it. But Nevada's coming up, and there's a clear conflict of interest with one of Buttigieg's ex staff, people on the Nevada primary, like what's the committee that decides if things are like okay. What's the name of this position? Hold on, I have to look it up. This is kind of embarrassing.
Rebecca's
But
hunting. Hunting. I like it.
What?
You're hunting. I like it.
The voter protection director of Nevada is a woman named Emily Goldman, who was an organizer for Pete for America. And, I don't know if this is like it's a caucus in Nevada. I don't know. So they canceled the app, right? The horrendous app that failed because it was designed a few months ago and was never tested. And so,
and to their credit, they literally the day after the Iowa caucus, the Nevada State Election Board released a statement stating, we don't know what happened in Iowa. We don't know if the app will work or not, but we're officially not using it. Like they came out the next day, like they were on point.
I mean, and also pretty soon after that, they were like, but don't worry, we're going to hire this voter protection director named Emily Goldman, who used to work for Buttigieg. So we're good. It's like, no, that's a conflict of interest, and she should be fired. Not hired. Like she should not be working in that position.
Have you seen the follow up to that?
I have not.
Ah, okay.
But I'm prepared to be enraged. Another thing I don't know if you guys know is the New York Times wrote an article where, basically saying, look, we recognize that there are inconsistencies with the count in Iowa, and we're not going to change it. So what the F? They just said, yeah.
I mean, it did happen.
There's inconsistencies. We're not going to change it.
I can't get on you on that one. So anyway, so the voter thing, the person that Nevada hired. So I believe you can Google it, but I believe that all the campaigns weighed in on it, and even everybody reviewed her background, and apparently she literally worked for Buttigieg for 6 weeks or something. And it was a semi-volunteer position that had turned into staff, and everybody was satisfied that she wasn't on the take. I think even the Sanders campaign released a statement about it.
So in other words, she wasn't a hardcore Buttigieg.
No, it was something she did in college. She was she volunteered for a campaign in college, something like that. Hold on.
Well,
let me just make sure. Let me make sure.
Why is I mean, not to be ageist, but okay, as far as LinkedIn, they have a picture from LinkedIn where it says she was an organizer, Pete for America, October 2019 to February 2020. If she's 20 years old and she worked for, I worked for him in college, which was up until February.
I mean, I walked around with a plastic container in college and collected money for NYPIRG, the Clean Water Association. And they're a bunch of assholes, but I did that in college for 6 weeks.
Did you do that in February of 2020, which is this month?
No, I'm just, like I said, I was only bringing it up because I saw something about it.
Yeah, look, I wasn't that politicized in college, but it seems like then maybe she's in college because she was working for them she was working for Buttigieg on his campaign. up until this month. I don't know. It's just
Hey, listen, I don't disagree with you. Like, I have my larger issue with Nevada is that they're another caucus state. So it's another
yeah.
place where Sanders can win by like a point and still come out losing by 3 delegates because math, I guess, is a
No,
thing.
you mean because it's basically like the electoral college but in a caucus and because it's undemocratic.
Yeah, Nevada was also super screwy in 2016. You are correct, Ace. Um, yeah, but any of the caucus states are because they have some weird cockamamie math that they do to like convert
Right.
like whatever the state pledges are into the actual delegates, and it has to do with the ratio of population in that district versus like the total number of people who caucused the previous 4 years. Like it's some weird ass cockamamie thing that almost nobody understands. Um,
I mean, that's really concerning because that's, the next state coming up. Um, so yeah,
okay,
and James, maybe you can talk to this. So I looked at like how are people polling right now, and Sanders is ahead, right? And like Buttigieg is not, but he was polling at like 7, I think. But I'm wondering, is he a threat? Like, did Iowa and New Hampshire help him
it's funny you should
in
ask.
Nevada?
Okay, so a couple of things. Let me go through this real quick. So this article here, so about the Buttigieg staffer, uh, Sanders campaign manager Faiz Shakir said, "We've spoken with the Nevada party, which has assured us that this individual does not have decision-making authority over the caucus count. Please know we're working hard with the party to get every assurance that mistakes of Iowa are not repeated." So it's on their radar. They've already talked to the state. Apparently, they are at least somewhat mollified and are not
Like,
raising a stink. So if the
who
Sanders
is
campaign's not
yeah,
raising a stink, I'm not raising a stink.
I
That's
get that, but I do wonder, who is she? Is she qualified? Is she another person who just came out of nowhere? Is she in college? Like, how is she qualified for this position, regardless of how deeply entrenched she
it's
was in Pete's campaign,
it's a
right?
caucus.
Like, who is she?
There's not much experience involved in caucus. That's the problem. Hold on. How does an unknown nobody become a topic of a political debate?
Thank
Uh,
you. I mean, I have an idea. I don't want to.
I don't.
It's
I
just
listen. I'm not disagreeing with you. I was throwing that out there just so you knew that this was a thing that like his campaign was aware of. They've looked at. They made a public statement about it. They're on the record about it. Nevada's going to be screwy no matter what happens. It was screwy in 2016. It was screwy in 2004. It's a caucus state. Caucus math is always fucking silly. I would be much happier if every single state went to single vote, pen and paper, colored rocks in a barrel, some shit like that. Election day was a national holiday. Everybody could vote. They didn't purposely write questions or referendums in confusing ways to coerce people into voting a different way. Like, I would love if we didn't have any of that crap. But, apparently all these things that we do are part of what makes the American democracy the envy of the free world. I don't know if you've heard that, Rebecca, but I've been told that our democracy is the envy of the free world.
I mean, I posted this on Facebook, and the system that we have, the voting system that we have, is just it's undemocratic. And there are many reasons, and I
Yeah.
firmly believe that. I mean, I'm sorry to say, I know that sounds really controversial, but it's not a democracy. And I think that the sooner we recognize that, like, the
Well,
better off
we're
we
not
will
a
be.
democracy. We're a constitutional republic. Y'all just fell for the marketing. Like, don't get mad at
Uh,
me. Like,
yeah, like again, yeah, like
y'all
what we're
read the bumper
saying.
sticker and just went, "Yeah, that's a thing, democracy." I never went in on that shit.
Um,
We're a constitutional republic for like 250 years. All our paperwork was written by fucking old white slave owners. Women were not even considered humans. Like, and somehow people nowadays in like 2020 are somehow amazed that we have like archaic systems with horrible language and poor double checks and absolutely no drive from within the system to change the system because it benefits people in the system. And all of a sudden people are like, oh, this is peculiar. Huh. Like, really? Did
Yeah. I
y'all just
mean,
get here?
certain decisions in Iowa in 2016 and also this year were made by coin flips.
Oh yeah, we played them last week. Yeah, there were like
You
four horrible
know?
coin flips. That's literally, again, our democracy is the envy of the free world. We literally have people throwing money in the air to decide who the fucking winner is. But
And Lydia and Jocelyn talked about this too. There is a problem with staggered primaries where it takes almost a year and to decide who the primary candidate will be. And there are certain states, like Iowa and New Hampshire, determining the momentum of the race, which I think is really problematic. Iowa has a little over 3 million people. There are some cities that have more than double that.
but correct me if I'm wrong here. In 2016, wasn't that the exact plan that the Sanders campaign used? That all like the Sanders people like were absolutely like flipped out about, like, oh my god, we're going to win the early state, then we're going to win the second early state, then we're going to get momentum, then we're going to rage through Super Tuesday, then we're going to people are just going to come flocking out of the highlands and come down and fucking knock on doors because of the momentum, because our caucus system is like 5 months long. Like, wasn't that the exact Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders supporters entire plan back in 2016?
To be
Correct me if
honest,
I'm wrong.
I mean, I think people have self-interests, right? I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay, just making sure.
Um, yeah, no, and I mean, another thing is like, and Jocelyn said this, like, why not just all vote on one day? And I thought about that too, and I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes the most sense. If that happened, guess who we would have had? Biden.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple. Like, I'm not going to disagree. Like, so we talked to like $27, like David, Jaxie's in Wales, Lauren's in here sometimes. She's in Ireland. So we've talked to people in the UK and in the EU. Even Kiara, when Kiara was on the roundtable last week and she was explaining in Germany.
Yeah,
And so every other
love
country in the
Kiara.
world, basically their political advertising season and their campaigning season is anywhere from 6 weeks to 6 months long per election cycle, like whatever it is, every 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, whatever it is. Here in America, the political campaign cycle, it starts the day after the election. Like there are straight up, like there are articles like the day after the 2012 election, like Reince Priebus and Roger Stone and four other people were writing the 2016 primary campaign.
It is such uh, an absurd amount of money and energy and resources that, you know, can be spent in other places. Like, yeah, you're right, James. It's like we're constantly in a race. And I think I think we could use our energy and our resources in better ways.
Oh yeah,
You
totally.
know?